A very good morning to you from this side of the hemisphere in the south. We are in Johannesburg, and if you've joined us, you're on the fifth connection. It's the 13th of May, a wonderful Tuesday morning, and trust that as you track with us through the storyline of the book of Philippians, that your heart will be encouraged. We've had some technical glitches, and so we're doing a rerun this particular series with a lot of new information, and trust that you will enjoy it. Please don't forget to listen to our interview with Tom Wadsworth that we did about 2 weeks ago, and just the excitement of some of the highlights and the discoveries that he has made in the whole area of worship and the New Testament assembly. And he's done some very good investigative research on the issue. It has gone viral, thousands upon thousands over a 5-6 day window, and it's very unusual for anything theological, biblical theological, to go viral in that kind of way on platforms on the planet. So you do take time to tune in and listen to that one. Tom Wadsworth is the name. We continue right along in the text of the book of Philippians. We are going to look at verse number 7 to verse number 11. And we started talking about the importance of mindfulness as it tracks through 104 verses of the storyline of the book of Philippians. Let this mind be in you. What mind? The cruciform mind of Christ. It's a modal cruciformity that is called for. And every chapter of the story is chock full of why mindfulness is at the heart of being a follower of the way. It has to do with a state of being, which is predicated on a state of mind. A traditional way of interpreting the core of this book has been unity or joy, or put it in a third way, a joyful unity. Well, I want to suggest from tracking through the story, the flow has to do with mindfulness. Let this mind be in you. It's an embedded mind in chapter 1. It's an embodied mind in chapter 2 and in chapter 3. It's an exapted mind because some use biblical theology and they make it an ideology, an idolatry of ideas that you worship at, such as a statement of faith, a creed, or a confession. And chapter 3 is chock full of that. Don't accept mindfulness and twist it and make it an ism. And then in chapter 4, extended mindfulness. Some great payouts with keeping a Christ mind new and fresh and novel in your own way of thinking. And so let's continue where we picked up yesterday in a previous episode. We talked about at the heart of mindfulness is this whole idea of community, and community has to do with cordiality, people in relationship with each other. There is high tribal relationality because it is connection, or it has to do with connections that ignite cognition. Connections inspire cognition as we relate to each other cordially. And then in yesterday's episode, we looked at the whole issue of collaboration in the context of community. It's about Not you working towards my goal or my working towards your goal. It is us working together around a greater goal, because that is what collaboration is. Cooperation is a lot more individual, pursuit of an individual goal, but collaboration has to do with a one-minded focus that grows out of gospel. So we saw that at the core, at the heart of collaboration is uh, something which is very elemental. Three things that are elemental: thinking, number one; number two, feeling; and number three, loving. And in that order. So let's talk through them as they come up in the text. Thinking. Wow, where do we get that from? Each time I remember you, I'm praying for you in verse 3 and verse 4. And then on top of that, I am confident. The word confident is the word for persuade. I am confident. They all fall within the same field of meaning. Remember and be persuaded. That you has began a good work in the Philippian assembly in chapter 4, verse 18 to the end of the chapter. You have the instance where the good work that they had started, it had to do with a fiscal response, a meeting of Paul's need. That was the good work that started. We come from the outside and we foist a particular view on this text, which is really an application that what God started at salvation, he's going to complete. Well, it's got nothing to do with that. In the context, these Philippian believers met a particular need in Paul's life. We will get to chapter 4, but in the meantime, what had started as a meeting of an apostle's need has now reverberated down the corridor of history and has impact and will have impact until Jesus comes, according to verse 6. Now, verse 7. Verse 7 is going to talk about the next element in collaboration. It first of all has to do with thinking together and thinking well. And now it's about feeling, something that we are very confused about in the West. We are either overly feely and feeling and emotive, or we are under feeling or under emotive. Well, the scripture says here in verse 7 that Paul says, it is meet, it is right for me to think this of you all. What am I thinking? Because I have you in my heart. If the heart is the control room of the human being, then Paul says, I've got you in my heart. And he says, in as much as in my bonds and in the defense of the gospel. Those are the two things where I have you in my heart. Because I'm imprisoned and I'm defending and confirming the gospel. Those are the two things that I have in my heart concerning you. You are partakers of my grace. Now, verse number 8, the feeling element. For God is my witness, how greatly I long for you all in the tender mercies of Christ. The word in the KJV is bowels of Christ. And in, if we could call it that, Hebrew psychology, which would be a misnomer, but let's call it that. The bowels of Christ has to do with this feeling, these emotions of Christ that are driven by Christ. Now, emotions are cultural expressions of our internal state, because emotions are made, not born. You are born with an internal state, but your emotions take the shape of the cultural construct that you live inside of. That's something that you need to think through and get your head around. We are all born with an internal state, but our environment is going to impact us in a unique way in terms of our expression of that internal state. Now he says, God is my record, how greatly I long after you all. In verse number 8, I long after you all in the splagna. There's the word for spleen, splagna. The tender mercies of Christ. It's the word for spleen, which has to do with an internal organ. Yeah, the figurative impact has to do with my deep emotional feeling for you. How does he express that? He says, I long for you. I crave, I desire, I long for. Epipotheo, I long for. And Paul says, I long after you all in the bowels of Jesus Christ. Because you see, some of us have grown up under very non-emotive and non-expressive environments. I, for one, considered showing any kind of emotion a sign of weakness, all the way from shedding a tear uh, to great and deep seething anger. Those are non-entities because God loves a survivor. I'm a survivor. Oh, we pride ourselves at being survivors. I survive and I thrive. And then God takes you on a little journey and teaches you that the expression of emotion is part of my humanity. And oh, what a big learning curve that has been for me. Paul says, I greatly long after you in the bowels of Jesus Christ. For some of us, that's a killer line. As I said, because we've grown up to extinguish emotion, extinguish desire, and we're proud almost being Buddhistic because the extinction of desire and emotion and feeling is what it's all about. Well, part of being part of God's family has to do with being human and expressing emotion. And so here is what comes out of the text. You and I need to learn to calibrate our emotions, calibrate our feelings, because for the most part in the West, we don't know what to do with them. We either want to extinguish them or we have them at the forefront of all of what we are and what we do. And we are learning more and more that it is part of who we are, and we need to learn to calibrate that. How do you learn to calibrate that? Well, God will take you on a very interesting journey and teach you what calibration is all about, to get those waves in sync with each other. It's thinking, feeling, doing. Emotions are a crucial part. Somehow we want to cancel them out of the equation. So, collaboration has to do with thinking. And now comes the big one. Verse 9. Loving. And this I pray, that your love may abound yet more and more in knowledge and in all judgment, that you may approve things that are excellent, things that are perfect, that you may be sincere and without offense until the day of Christ, being filled with the fruit of righteousness, which are by Jesus Christ, unto the glory and praise of God. Those lines in the story talk about loving. We have a very phony way of describing loving. We think about loving being that which is common to a particular relationship, a romantic relationship that I have. Well, love functions way beyond that. Love is not stunted, nor stirred, nor excited, nor extinguished by what we experience at a relational level with one another. These three things remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is what? Love. Love doesn't evaporate one day and then appear the next day because I have good feelings. Something which is a lot bigger than that. It's the more excellent way that chapter 12 and the last verse in chapter 12 of 1 Corinthians talks about, I show you a more excellent way. It's the way of love. Personal, voluntary sacrifice for the benefit of others. Paul says, I pray that your love may abound, superabound. How does he describe it? Love may abound yet more and more in knowledge and in all judgment. Love is not feeling oriented and primed by feelings. It's really the other way around. Love functions in two spheres, knowledge and judgment. Knowledge and discernment are where love needs to be superabounding. Because I'm constantly going to have to test things, approve things that are excellent, things that are expedient. And no rule book is going to teach me that. Love is the thing. That you may be sincere and without offense until the day of Christ, because you're going to have to make decisions upon decisions upon decisions, all the way from what you're going to be eating in the next 24 hours, to what you'll wear, to who you'll respond to how you'll respond to them. Decisions, decisions, decisions. And love is the thing that is going to be priming that, because love needs to impact my total being in the spheres of what I know and what I am discerning. There's so much here. It says, being filled with the fruits of righteousness. That's the product. That's the payout. Being filled. As my love increases, my love set increases in knowledge and judgment. And this is what collaboration has to do with. Thinking together, feeling together, and then loving together. Right? This is not purely just an individual me, myself, and I, as in the universal tea party. Collaboration is corporately, in solidarity with what the assembly does and how it moves. And so, moving from cordiality to collaboration is what community is about. It includes being respectful, greeting warmly, being respectful of each other at every turn, saying good morning, saying good night, saying goodbye, doing the cordial thing. And now do the collaborative thing. Think well, feel well, and love well. Institution I graduated from eventually changed their motto to teaching well and loving well. Teach truth and love well. What are they teaching? What corresponds to reality. Living in fidelity with the flow of reality is what truth is. And loving well. Well, here the text is talking about loving well. Your mind is primed. Your discernment senses are sharp. You know what to do and what is apropos for the moment. Because that's where we lack. We're deeply lacking. What do I do now? Well, you're going to have opportunities today to exercise collaboration. First, with the saints below, and then in the sphere of the commons, where you conduct your life, where you work. Trust you would have a good day as you go with God. Goodbye for now.